Welcome to Indivisible Hawaii's 2026 Legislative Wrap-Up Webinar. My name is Younghee Overly, and I am with the Indivisible Hawaii State Public Policy team. First, few Zoom logistics. We are recording this webinar. Please use Q&A feature to ask your questions. You will have an opportunity to upvote the questions so that we'll have questions of the panelists that you are most of you are interested in to answer. And also, please do not use Q&A feature as a chat function because that gets very confusing. And after the webinar, you will be sent the recording as well as the slides that you are looking at. I have been volunteering as an advocate with the Hawaii State Legislature since 2018. And 2026, this year has been most exciting year. Why is that? Because Hawaii is making history, and we are here to talk about that. Who would have thought the state's power can be used to ban dark money? This is so exciting. So for those of you who are new to this, lucky you, because you get to witness history and be part of the history your first year. It also has been fun, and yes, I mean fun, working with so many politically engaged people who understand why advocating with state legislature matters. So we'll start with deep dive on SB 2471, which would ban dark money, and then discuss other important bills which are advancing, and also talk about what more we can do in 2026 as well as next year. I will turn over to Sam Guggenheimer to get us started. Sam?
Thanks, Younghee. So, everyone, we have this fantastic panel here to talk about SB 2471, which is the bill that shines sunshine over dark money. We have with us two of the sponsors of the bill, Senators Keohokalole and Senator Rhodes. Senator Rhodes gets extra congratulations, says this is his parting gift to us. Representative MAtayoshi, who had the last of the committee hearings in the House to move this forward, and Dean Soifer, Professor Emeritus from UH Law School. Now, just if you haven't been in the weeds as much as the rest of us, just think back for a minute to how different politics was in 2010. This was the first congressional term under President Obama. And everything with campaign finance, maybe there was too much money in politics, we thought then, but Citizens United hit us in 2010 and created these monsters that we now know as super PACs. So think about how much things have changed in those last 16 years in our politics nationally. Let me start with the sponsor, Senator Rhodes, Senator Keohokalole. You were the original sponsors of this bill. So could you give us an overview of the purpose of the bill in blocking dark money and how this effectively mitigates the Citizens United decision for us in Hawaii? Go ahead.
Well, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay,
absolutely.
great. Do you want me to start, Jared? I'm in there. Okay. So yeah, so for years we've been casting around for some way to get at Citizens United without just overturning the decision. And basically everything I'd ever come up with before was symbolic, changing our own state constitution to reflect that spending money doesn't equate to speech. This was the first time I'd ever seen anything where it actually kind of like made sense to me that, hey, maybe this is an avenue that we could use. And I saw it was just happened to see a Robert Wright post on, I forget what,
Substack,
some
Substack in December.
some social media post. I was like, oh yeah, that makes sense, and it sort of clicked with everything that I'd been thinking about for years. And I mean, the idea is just to hopefully slow down the flow of dark money and to reduce it, because I think there's a lot of donors who wouldn't donate if people knew where the money was coming from. They're advocating for things that they're really ashamed of, or they know they should be ashamed of, but they pour the money in there since there's no accounting for it. So that's what I was looking for, and that's why I put the bill in.
Senator Keohokalole?
Yeah, I think I saw the idea on Instagram because I don't know, a millennial dad, and that's where I get progressive social media content. And so I have gotten a number of ideas from social media. And so we looked into it, and Tom Moore at the Center for American Progress had actually emailed, I think probably the whole legislature to pitch the concept in the winter before we got into the legislative session. So I introduced sort of a different version of the bill that didn't it didn't do the things that this bill ended up doing. And so we moved Carl's version, and I signed on as a co-sponsor. But I think, Scott, I heard you said this as well in your speech. The polling on opposition to Citizens United across the country has been uniformly against for the entirety of the decision since 2010. And that's across the political spectrum. I think the lowest opposition is 75% of Republicans are opposed. And I've seen polls in 2010, 2015, 2018, 2022, and then one from last year. So the country does not like this approach. They don't like this ruling, and we've been trying to figure out nifty ways, effective ways to reverse it the whole time. So, we think this one will work.
That's great. Now, Representative MAtayoshi and Dean Soifer, you have seen, I'm sure, the concerns that the Attorney General has raised about constitutionality, and they had some testimony against the bill to that effect. Can you say whether you think these concerns are warranted? Is this going to be constitutional? How will it do in court?
Avi, why don't you take the constitutional answer, and I'll give the political answer after that.
Well, I first of all will admit to a sense of pride in the people who have been key here, and you're seeing two of them, are graduates of our school, and Della and Kanani Souza on the House side also were involved in this. And Carl Rhodes wasn't fortunate enough to come to our school, but he's been talking about this for a long, long time, and it's such a fitting tribute to a wonderful person who has led a very distinguished career as a senator. We have had lots of back and forth and good questions, good legal questions, and it really is an additional source of pride for me that the graduates, first of all, I may slip into a first name basis because we're a very friendly law school, but the graduates of our school don't just sit there and say, oh, this looks good. They raise questions. And I've been very fortunate to have joining me, we wrote an op-ed together, Claire Connors, the former AG and U.S. Attorney, and recently retired Mark Rechtenwald, Chief Justice of the Hawaii Supreme Court. They are terrific lawyers, so it was a pleasure for me to work with them. I think we've come up with answers. And one of the answers is that in Citizens United, Justice Kennedy for the court said that contributions, including by corporations, don't raise issues of corruption or even the appearance of corruption. And I'm afraid we know better than the court at that point knew. It was a naive statement. And we've seen dark money and we've seen billionaires bragging about how much they gave. So we've got to do something about it. Hawaii has a history of being progressive, And I think this is a wonderful progressive step in keeping with what the legislature and the governor have done here in the past. And I'm pretty confident that we've got a strong bill and that it will survive constitutional review. That one might add up to the U.S. Supreme Court, but they are using, for example, changing facts with abandon when they want to and otherwise ignoring the facts. So it's hard to be predictive that, oh, this will come out all right. But they're also not very concerned about precedent or anything else these days, I'm afraid. So I think we can't worry about, oh, it might get to the U.S. Supreme Court and they'll strike it down. We have to do things because they're the right things to do. And see you in court is often a threat to which we say, okay, we'll see you in court.
So on the political side, I was lobbied very hard by our Attorney General to not hear this bill because they do not consider it constitutional given the Citizens United case. But I kind of told them that's exactly the thing we're trying to overturn. You know, if we never challenged anything that was considered constitutional or unconstitutional at the time, we'd still have segregation. We'd still have segregated schools. I mean, everything that has gone up to the Supreme Court has been because someone has said, I ain't sitting at the back of the bus. We're going to challenge this thing. And it was overturned. So Citizens United itself overturned the previous case. So it's not like that to me was kind of a thin excuse, honestly. I do agree that if we were to take Citizens United as unchangeable law of the land, then I think that this bill is going to have a problem. But you got to test it, right? That's the only way we change things. That's what they did in Citizens United. Why can't we do it right back to them? So I personally really wanted this bill or some version of it to work. The problem I had, which we can talk about more in detail later, but I was truly concerned that given the state of the current U.S. Supreme Court, that the bill would work in that it would allow us to restrict our own organizations from engaging in political speech, but it would not work trying to get mainland corporations and mainland entities to do political speech in Hawaii. And that to me was one of the reasons why I was so hesitant about this bill at first, is because I did not want to make the situation worse. My worst case scenario was we would be stuck with only mainland voices coming in to exercise political speech in Hawaii, and none of our local voices or local organizations would have a voice. And that frankly scared the hell out of me. You know, I hate Citizens United, but I don't want to make it worse. So fortunately, in very, very late night negotiations with Senator Keohokalole up to literally the last minute, we came up with a solution to put a fail-safe into the bill to make sure that if that situation were to happen, then it would unbind our own organizations as well. You know, if there was no parity, then this bill would self-destruct, basically, to free up our local voices to have a voice. But yeah, politically, okay, so I will say politically, I've also talked to some people in governor's office who have said that, you know, it's such a popular bill that they don't think that they think that even with the attorney general fiercely opposing it, that is probably not going to get vetoed. You know, we'll see. Anything can happen. I know the attorney general is not very happy with needing to defend this bill, and you know, we have a bunch of attorneys on here. I wouldn't be thrilled to try to take this thing up to the Supreme Court, but someone's got to do it. It's the right thing to do, and I'm hoping that this more innovative approach finds some traction even at the Supreme Court level.
We have lots of people listening in who I think will help you urge the governor to sign it.
And if I may, Sam, that is, I think, the key here. Part of the reason why this thing sailed through the legislature on a 75-1 final vote is because of how many people around Hawaii lobbied the legislature consistently to get it across the finish line. So you can't stop now. You got to go get the governor too.
That is the plan. And I noted that you amended the effective date on the floor to July 1st, 2027. Is that so that if there's court challenge and something comes through, language comes through the court, you have a chance to catch the law up to that?
That, and there are also questions, there are also concerns raised by local unions that their voices were going to be hampered by this bill. And so there was a swell of union opposition to this bill. Just a lot of it had to deal with misunderstanding this bill, quite frankly. But some of it may be founded in some practical limitations that this bill is going to place on them. Unions are not people, right? Unions are artificial entities created by the state. So this bill should apply to them, PRP, you name it. I think unions had a little trepidation on whether that was going to be a good thing, how much that would hamper them. Could they still endorse Senator Keohokalole and put his name in their newsletter saying, hey, vote for this guy, or could they not? So I think those are some questions we need to answer that we're going to be discussing over the next year. And hopefully we can tweak something to still allow, union voices to be heard. I don't think it's going to be a problem simply because this bill does not affect PACs or super PACs and their ability to spend. It's really trying to cut out their route and cut out giving them their ability to get money. So most unions run through PACs. I think they'll be okay. But again, when I talked to Senator Keohokalole, we decided to give ourselves a little extra time, one more bite at the apple, just to make sure that we could get the strongest bill we could after another year of thinking.
Yeah, and we don't want to split the progressive community. Labor founded the Democratic Party in Hawaii by pushing back against the Big Five, the Big Five's stranglehold over our politics from the overthrow in 1893 until World War II. The one thing to note earlier from that question, originally the bill was already set to take effect in 2027. And the reason was we did not want to encourage an immediate court challenge and all of the confusion about this thing taking effect in this election cycle. We thought putting the effective date of the measure out past this election cycle and into the 2028 cycle would give us the strongest chance of defending it. There were labor union political action committees before Citizens United. There will be labor union political action committees after Citizens United. There were stabilization funds. The PRP, the Pacific Resource Partnership, is an employer union joint stabilization fund where both sides contribute. There were before Citizens United and there will be after. There are rules about how those entities need to be structured going forward. They need to be the main thing to remember is that they need to be funded through voluntary contributions from their members. Many unions are still set up that way, and the other unions were set up that way before Citizens United. So there is some conversation we have to have in the community that really came on very late in the process, and we're confident we can work it out, and that it's still the best way to get dark money out of this system. The press keeps asking me about PRP. We know who PRP is. So I don't actually consider them dark money. Everybody knows who they are, whether you agree with it or not. We know who they are. What's really problematic is when the CEO of Home Depot decides to set up a shell company, or when Elon Musk creates United States of America Incorporated and puts $40 million in it. Right? So who knows what United States of America Incorporated is? And that's really what this bill is getting at.
There's a big irony here, I think, in that our legislature, people more directly involved with politics, are more practically concerned, more pragmatic than the U.S. Supreme Court, which, as we've seen in the last couple of weeks, is just free for all, and they don't care about the effect of their recent Louisiana decision and others.
There's another view that they do care, and that's why they did it, which is unfortunately plausible at the moment. Well, so just to double click on where you went there, the history of PACs is long and was not controversial before Citizens United. So could you just, help everyone understand the difference, what it means to go back to pre-2010 PACs? Dean, Senator.
I'm not going to call on my students. They have to, my former students.
No, it used to be, I think The big switch with Citizens United was not so much the idea that corporations are people. That was pretty well established already. I think the difference was that the interpretation was that if if you weren't coordinating with the campaign, then the amount of money you could give was unlimited. And that's what a super PAC does. They don't try to coordinate, or they're not supposed to coordinate with campaigns. I mean, that's another sort of legal fiction. I think they do, but um, so so going back to pre-Citizens United just means that you have spending limits um, on corporate contributions. They have to go through a PAC, but they can't just spend as much as they want. And I'm not sure this bill actually does that specifically. It it's in some ways it does more than that. It says you can't corporate money can't be spent at all for politics, but it doesn't get rid of super PACs. So if you can find a funding source for your super PAC, you can still use a super PAC.
But you can't hide who's behind it, right?
It
That's
will be
right.
much,
It
it'll be
most
much
likely needs to be a very rich individual
right,
because
it'll be
Right.
much harder.
non-wealthy individuals will just probably donate up to the campaign spending limit and not anymore.
Well, that would be good. That's 3,500 for individuals and 5,000 for PACs. So that would be a good limit to have. I'm conscious of time. Do any of you have parting thoughts about what's next for us with this bill, this movement, the next 6 months, the next 12 months?
Well, I'm going to go first, leaving some time for others, I hope, even though I'm a retired professor. Corporate speech has been regulated and is still regulated in some ways. And so Citizens United has sort of taken on a life of its own. It made the mistake that I mentioned, a kind of naivete, but it also continued something that only began in the 1970s, which was the notion that dollars, that money and speech overlapped or actually were kind of synonymous. But if you think about corporate entities, which are artificial entities, they can't engage in fraud. They can't engage in violating truth in lending. There are a lot of things they can't say and a lot of things they can't do. So it's not an absolute that these entities have freedom of expression. And in fact, commercial speech as such wasn't protected until the 1970s. So taking a historical view, going way back to 1819, it has been clear that states charter corporations and can put conditions into those charters. And I just came across the historic irony that that's a year away from when Mary Shelley launched Frankenstein. Now you can take from that what you want.
So
Senators?
I think coming up, we want to, and I'm sorry, I've got to leave. I've been sitting in this parking lot for
That's
half an
fine.
hour in front of this other event. But I think the next thing to do is to watch other states, what they're going to do. And Montana's up next. We got a couple other states looking at this concept. This can't be just a Hawaii thing. I mean, we can be the first in the nation to do it, and maybe the first in the nation to be challenged, but we're going to need other states to join in. You know, if an entity is doing business in the state of Hawaii, then we can try to regulate them. But this is not going to stop the Delaware Super PAC from influencing a Texas election or a California election or really any other state, as if they don't touch Hawaii. So it's important, but it's limited in scope. Hopefully, we can kind of show the way for other states to the path for them to take. And because red and blue states all universally hate Citizens United, if this idea works, it could be just a 50-state solution and not a federal one. So that's what I'm hoping. Sorry, I've got to go, but good talking to you
Well,
all.
thank you for your gift.
Congratulations, Scott.
Thank you for
Thanks,
your
Scott.
gift to the people of Hawaii.
And wouldn't that be great? We get to fulfill the dream of Thomas Jefferson, states' rights. So I think going forward, there are two main things for everybody watching to think about in my mind going forward. The first is let's get on the horn and get the governor to sign this thing and get it really truly across the finish line. And the second thing is that everyone involved with Indivisible Hawaii, the Hawaii Clean Elections Coalition, everyone who participated, sent an email, submitted testimony, or was just even following it online and now knows the scoop, you guys are all apostles to this thing. Let's go get the Delaware Indivisible Statewide Network and the Texas Indivisible Statewide Network. Let's go spread this out, because each state has a different, Chapter 414 charter, that charters corporations. It took a lot of work for us to sort of figure out how to take the legal concept and gel it into our Hawaii revised statutes. Somebody needs to do that, and they need to first understand what it is we're trying to accomplish and why it's important. So everybody can participate in that part of it, and we're going to need all your help. So let's go.
Thank you, Senator Keohokalole. Senator Rhodes.
Well, I was just going to say that I think the irony is that at the end here, and of course the vote ended up being a laugher, and I don't know why I was so concerned for so many days, but if it had died on the floor, which I thought was a real possibility, and even up till this morning, it would have been because of labor, because the corporate interests haven't really weighed in on this here in Hawaii. And that is kind of a problem, maybe just in terms of explaining what the bill does, but it would be a cruel irony if a movement that the corporate money has spent decades trying to beat down. I mean, before Citizens United, but more so after Citizens United, just because they had so much more money to spend. It would be a cruel irony that if labor managed to convince the governor to veto it, for example, because at the macro scale, this is a completely pro-labor development, because the management outspends labor. I don't really know. I've heard anywhere between 100 to 1,000 to 1. And so anything that we can do to limit, just to have some sane system of campaign finance where, billionaires can't give their whole $1 billion to the race, we need to do that. And we need to convince our labor allies that that's something that we need to do. I do have one other point, and that is, I think the AG won't have to defend this. I mean, I think the AG may have to reach out to some groups and say, hey, we're not experts in this particular little subset of campaign finance law. Would you like to defend this for us on a pro bono basis? And I'm guessing there's people who would do it, and probably really bright people who know exactly what they're doing and who could probably do a better job than we can. So I hope that we keep that in mind too, that, I don't think we're going to be alone. Even if no other state passes it, I don't think we're going to be alone in terms of having to defend it.
Thank you for your work. Mahalo nui
Congratulations.
loa. It's a great accomplishment for the state. We will urge the governor to sign it. We will turn out indivisibles across Hawaii to do that. And we really appreciate all of the heavy lifting on this, down to the last minute.
I do have one other practical suggestion, and that is all the people that, and thank you so much for all the people that did contact us, because that really made a difference. But the one other thing I would do is have a whole bunch of them just thank all the people who voted for it for doing it, because
Yes.
it's a novel approach. It takes some courage to just try something new like that.
Yep.
That's an excellent suggestion, Senator. And next Tuesday at the Capitol at 11 o'clock, we'll be there with some signs. So join us, 11 o'clock, May 12th. And those were great suggestions. I like the idea of working with other indivisibles. And I think Montana is going to go for this. So,
All the kids
okay.
are doing it.
Okay.
Thank you, everybody.
All right. Thank
Great
you so
job,
much.
Indivisible.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right. So, Lisa, are you ready?
I'm ready, but somebody's got to, Sam, can you unlock? Sam, you got to turn on my video.
Okay.
There we go.
Okay, there you
Hey,
go.
There we
All
go.
right. So let me start with the agenda to just refresh where we are. So we are done with the deep dive on SB 2471. In the second half of this webinar, we'll be going through why state advocacy is important. And then we have a panelist who led the way for Indivisible on different issues, who's going to talk about bills that advance and bills that we need to still work on next year. And then we'll go into actions that we can still take and what the plan is for interim session. So Lisa, this is your slide.
Oh, okay. I can't see your slides, but I'm going to say what I have to say about the statewide network, which is our mission and our job is to give agency and voice to the chapters, to the members of the chapters across the state. We have to be a solid source of trusted information, and our objective is to get folks to take action so that they believe in the political system. We want to hold all our elected officials accountable from the ground up. So it's very powerful when somebody from Hilo calls their state representative and says, "Hi, Rep so-and-so, I'm your constituent, and I'm asking that you do XYZ on whatever bill." That's really the powerful role of the statewide agency, statewide network. I also really want to acknowledge the extraordinary work of the Indivisible policy team. Yang He, I know you're going to Africa, but we'll be thinking about you when you're there. Sam, Marlene, Tom, I'm probably missing something. Clayton, I see him. The team has really put together a system, again, which gives agency to the folks in these communities to participate, to bringing solutions to I call them the citizen lobby. We want our citizens to be lobbyists. We want our elected officials to listen to the citizens, not their donors. So congratulations. It's been a dream I've had for a long time, and it's starting after a number of years to take root. So good job, policy team. It wouldn't have happened without you.
Thank you, Lisa. So to recap what we did this session, we started with 94 bills, 94. That included some companion bills, some similar bills, but we did have 63 bills that got hearing, and you all submitted testimonies. Out of the 63, 31 passed both chambers, and out of that, 13 passed the state legislature and on the way to governor to sign, with SB 2471 being one of those 13. So it's very exciting. Behind the scene, Clayton Camila, who tracked and notified us on all of our bills, and issue leads who testified on behalf of Indivisible Hawaii, and also kept up with talking points many of you used. So we have 5 of the 6 issue leads as a panelist today. So I will ask them to start their video so we could see you. There you are. Liz, can you join us? There you go. All right. So our super team here. So I have 2 questions for each one of you. And it is, what is that one bill that advanced up to governor that you are most excited about? And what is the one bill that you want to still work on in 2027? And why that is the case? And Liz, I know that you only have one bill, positive news there. So before we do that, if you could just introduce what part of Indivisible you are part of and what issue you worked on, that would be great. So I'm going to start from my left on the screen. So let's start with you, Doris.
Aloha, everyone. My name is Doris Siegel Matsunaga, and I'm with North Hawaii Indivisible, and a member of the Indivisible Hawaii Healthcare Team. So not surprisingly, I worked on healthcare. And the 3 bills that passed demonstrate that our Hawaii legislature continues to behave like progressive Democrats, at least when it comes to the social issues that are so embattled in some other states in the US. Specifically, they reaffirm their commitment to protecting reproductive rights and gender-affirming care, healthcare, and Hawaii healthcare providers who provide those services. And we should never take this legislative support for granted. And all of you who send in testimony on these bills help to make it happen. There was some opposition testimony, but ours was greater. And Liz will address later the gender affirming care. I'm so glad she's here for that. So on the issue, the next question, right, is what do we want to support in 2027? And there was a bill, HB 1546, that did not pass, and it was intended to address the surge we expect in the number of uninsured Hawaii residents due to that big bogus betrayal bill that was passed by the Republican-controlled Congress. This bill would have established a state-run health coverage continuity program to assist people who lose insurance. We are going to be trying to gain information about why it failed, but we have some guesses. It's a program that will cost money, and money programs have a hard time getting through the money committees and conference. It also proposed a new program that was complex, and so it may need some more work. But it was brave, and it was a really good start. And in the meantime, people in Hawaii are suffering due to lost healthcare coverage. And as a result, the cost of healthcare in Hawaii will rise for all of us. So it's needed. I want to add one more thing really quick, which is that the Indivisible Hawaii Healthcare Team, as it did this year, will strongly next year support revenue generating tax fairness bills that did not pass this year, because without that added revenue, there's no money for these kinds of healthcare bills and safety net. So that's it. Let me pass it on to the next person.
Thank you, Doris. I echo the tax revenue sentiment there. Thank you for the support. So let's go with you, Liz. Tell us about gender affirming care.
Hi, my name is Liz Walton, and I am here as the lead for the Small and Mighty Ka'u Voices Indivisible group in the South Point of the island of Hawaii. This session, there was a very skillful and powerful caucus working on this shield law, and my personal contribution was super tiny. I was merely a megaphone to amplify that caucus's work. That information I learned from what I would call a powerhouse of an advocate, and I am going to give a shout out to Abby Simmons of the Stonewall Caucus of the Democratic Party. And just of note, this bill has been through previous legislative sessions and different bill iterations, but this time that caucus got this bill passed and is awaiting the governor's signature. The concept of this bill is to protect folks who are unfortunately the target across the country of extremist politicians, targeting transgender people and their doctors, their healthcare providers. And there are many ways to bully people, and this is one of the avenues that was being taken, and we want to protect these folks. HB 1875 ensures that Hawaii remains a safe place where medical decisions are made by patients, by families, and healthcare professionals, not politicians. So it strengthens a pre-existing shield law. It ensures that patients and families don't become victims of out-of-state interference, abusive litigation, and discriminatory insurance practices. So we all believe in privacy between a doctor and a patient, and this ensures that no matter what your gender is, that will be maintained.
Okay. All
Yeah,
right.
thank
Thank
you.
you, Liz. Okay, so let's go to Marlene next.
Okay. My name is Marlene Tom. I'm the co-lead of Indivisible Honolulu, as well as a member of the Indivisible Hawaii Good Government and Free and Fair Elections policy team. And I have to say, I'm still sort of coming off the high of SB 2471 passing. I mean, talk about nail biter, cliffhanger, you name it. It was completely down to the wire, but I mean, we just did the deep dive, so you all know about it. It's wonderful. And I really liked what Representative Matayoshi said, right? That yes, of course, we can expect legal challenges, but so what? That's how change happens. Citizens United challenged the then status quo, and now it's our turn to challenge Citizens United. So anyway, the so of all the good government and free elections bills that we started with, I think I don't have the numbers at my fingertips, but it's like the majority of them passed at least through the second reading, maybe the third reading, in both houses. And so the four that were listed on the slides that you will receive at the end, they're all on their way to the governor's desk. The one that, well, there were actually a couple that didn't make it, that was disappointing. But this one, I really don't quite understand. I'll just give you the number. Those of you who have gotten used to the capital.hawaii.gov website, from submitting testimony, you can look up this particular measure is SB 2737, so 2737. It made it through, as I mentioned, like the third reading, the third votes of both Senate and House. Okay. But then on April 16th, not too long ago, the House notified the Senate that they disagreed with, I think that I got it right, that they disagreed with the amendments, the latest amendments. And so basically after April 16th, the bill died. What was the
Marlene?
bill? Yes.
Yeah, what does the bill do?
Right. It's the short title is like failure to report bribery.
Okay.
So it's basically, if a legislator or what is a state elected official, it's defined in the bill who is a state elected official. If such a person witnesses, some offense that they consider bribery, basically, that they need to report it. And if they don't report it, it's a misdemeanor, right? So it's not, I mean, I don't think there's any financial impact here. I mean, it doesn't cost the state, any.
Okay, so you're
money.
gonna look into it to figure out that's the one that you wanna work on next year.
Yes, because
Okay.
it's
Yeah.
seems so obvious. Why did it die? Why wasn't it? Yes,
Sure.
okay, there was disagreement, but why didn't it go into conference?
Sure.
So,
Thank you. Thank you.
sure.
Now let's
Yeah.
go to Steve.
Aloha, I'm Steve Munkelt. I'm a Kona Indivisible member and on the leadership team there. And I was assigned to supervise the migrant rights bills. And we originally had a partnership. We had a partnership with HCIR, the Hawaii Coalition for Immigrant Rights. And so starting the session, I think they had, if my memory is correct, 16 bills that then became the core of my responsibility for Indivisible, was to push those 16. But broadly interpreting civil rights, in addition to migrant rights, we also ended up with bills that had to do with being able to sue if you had a violation of your civil rights by a law enforcement officer, or a helpline for people who had their rights violated by a law enforcement officer to just call and ask for help. Some of those bills of that nature didn't make it through. All of them made it up to the last couple of deadlines. They all made it through the first house, the second house. Some of them kind of got dropped when they either weren't referred to conference committee or were referred and didn't get a hearing. So of the bills I was tracking for you, I think 12 of them got dropped at the last minute. 8 of them made it through and have now been passed and are on their way to the governor, including 2471. After 2471, I think the most significant of the ones that did make it through was that Hawaii law enforcement may not provide any assistance to federal immigration authorities, which was obviously part of the core immigrant right package. Unfortunately, some of those core immigrant rights bills, like no masking on law enforcement or must have identification on duty and wear uniforms, those bills didn't make it. And that's because there was a decision in the Ninth Circuit Court of Appeals out of a California bill that was passed 2 years ago that ruled on April 22nd that the laws of that type were a violation of the Supremacy Clause, that they interfered directly with authorized federal activity, and therefore there was a Supremacy Clause violation, and so that statute was disapproved by the court. And so then all of the similar bills in our legislature, and there were 4 of them at that time, they just got dropped because of the legal repercussions. And I mention that because if the legal groundwork changes, if there are different court decisions or something else happens along those lines, I think based on the behavior of ICE and CBP, those would be the most important bills we could follow up on next year.
Okay.
Beyond that, most of the bills that relate to migrant rights or civil rights, we need to wait and see what happens between now and about November to see what's the highest priority, because the federal tactics are going to change or expand. The decisions of courts, there's a decision almost every day disapproving something the administration is doing as unconstitutional or illegal. So I don't think we can choose exactly where we want to go yet. I think we have to wait and see what develops on the ground.
Okay, that makes sense, which is what we did this session too. Thank you, Steve. So I'm gonna talk a little bit about tax revenue bill that Doris mentioned. We did pass a tax revenue bill that was in governor's package. It was to repeal the tax cut that happened in 2024, Act 46. The final bill ended up being, it kept the tax cuts for household income of $350,000 or less, low and middle income families. It kept the tax cuts for it. However, it created a new income bracket for 0.36% high earners of Hawaii, basically millionaire tax. And it did repeal the tax cut for in between. So it is saving some money. In addition, a bunch of tax credit is sunsetting. So it's also saving some money. Not enough to cover all the federal funding cut that we are getting, which meant that things like the bill that Doris talked about to cover Medicaid and even some of the SNAP bills ended up not making through. So as you can see, we still have a lot of work to do to increase the revenue next session. So at this point, I'm gonna go ahead and switch a gear to talk about what more can we do and what you could expect at interim session. So again, you all have been part of this. It was a lot of fun because you are so politically engaged. Let me share with you some example. The migrant rights bills that Steve talked about, out of the top 10 individuals who testified for those migrant rights bill, 7 of the top 10 were you, members of Indivisible. So that's, you did make the difference. You totally rocked to make, Senator who talked about how we made a difference with all the phone calls we made, they meant it. You made a difference. So you already know about submitting testimonies, calling and emailing because you did it. As I mentioned before, next Tuesday, there will be a rally to rally with governor to sign SB 2471. So you should have all gotten an email with links to where you can sign up to do that. And in Honolulu at the Capitol, it is also likely to be also a press conference with the legislators you met earlier. In addition to advocating with our elected officials, we also had a lot of things going on, working with media. Some of them are op-eds that we submitted, and some of them are just coverage that different reporters did based on what they observed at hearings. We do believe that we need to also use media to advocate with governor on SB 2471. So if any of you want to write an op-ed about getting SB 2471 signed, just email us. Email address is on the next page. Like I mentioned before, there are a lot of work to do during the interim for public policy team. And like some of it, we may have to wait, like the migrant rights bills that Steve talked about. But most of them, we know what more we can work on. So we'll be busy working on that. And then in November and December, we hope to offer you 2 different workshops. One is engaging with the media, both traditional and social media, as well as other one will be effective advocacy workshop for you. So you'll be hearing from us more on those. Meanwhile, go ahead and please sign up to receive our alerts. And if you haven't yet, go check out Public Access Room. We are so lucky to have Public Access Room, to have great training and great and helpful and friendly resource to help you. So that is if you have any questions we did not answer today, email us. If you want to write an op-ed about SB 2471, email us. Again, I will be sharing these slides with you along with the recording afterwards. So thank you so much for your time and your participation. Good night.